So in this session, we will discuss about the remaining HTL tags. Okay. So we are having data hyphen SLY hyphen list. Okay. And then a data hyphen SLY hyphen repeat. So these are the two HTML tags we are having. So which is a part of HTL. So both are being using for the same purpose. Data SLY hyphen list and data hyphen SLY hyphen repeat. So then what is the use of this list and what is the use of this repeat? So simply they acts like a for loop. Okay. So they act like a for loop in Java. So same as for loop in Java. So which are used to read a list of objects, and it can be an array, any collection or any objects. So if you want to read, so then with the help of data hyphen SLY hyphen list, we can do that. Okay. So it is like a for loop in Java. Suppose consider we are having one multi-field or not a multi-field. Suppose if we are having an array of data. So if I go in here, I think in the last part we have added one array of data, right? So Marvel, US, and then EN, and then inside EN we have just added the Marvel form component, right? So inside Marvel form, so we have added one multi-field which is called as an hello is one multi-field we are having. So now if I want to iterate this data, right now if I try to print it, so properties dot hello, so it will print all the elements at the same line. Okay, so it will print all the elements in the same line. Suppose if I want to iterate the data, so I want to get the results one after other. So first iteration I want to have the HTL, and second iteration I want to have the Java, and third iteration I want to have the AEM. So in order for each and every iteration, in order to get one other data and then to display on the page, so then we'll be going for the for loop. So which component? Marvel forms component. So now if we're going for inside this Marvel form.html, so now what's going is, suppose if I try to read like this. Okay, so I'll show you an example. So dollar curly braces and properties dot hello. So when I read properties dot hello, so it will print the data. But whenever the data is printing, so it will print the data in the same line. So AEM, and then Java, and then it will print HTL. So this is how it will print the data. But I want to get the results one after other. I want to iterate the results. So AEM after Java, after I want to get the HTL. So this is how I want to get the results. So I want to iterate the results one after another. So for this array, for every iteration, I have to take one value and then I have to display that on the page. So in order to get this iteration, or in order to get this functionality, so in the Java, we'll be going for a for loop. So same like in the AEM, in order to iterate the data, so here we are having one more thing, which is nothing but the data hyphen SLY hyphen list. So simply you can have UL and then data hyphen SLY hyphen list. Okay, so UL is nothing but the host element. Okay, so UL is the host element. You can name the host element as anything. So data hyphen SLY hyphen list is equals to, and in the double quotes we have to call the data. So dollar curly braces and properties. Properties dot hello is the data we are having. And once I have got this hello data, now in order to iterate one after other, so inside the li element I want to iterate. So simply you can come here, then I'll take as an li, and then dollar curly braces item. Okay, so each and every item I want to get, so that you have to name it as item, and then backslash ln. So now if I refresh this en page, so it will retrieve the data of hello after one after other. Okay, so simply it will iterate the data. So AEM, Java, and HTL, so it is iterating the data as the child element. Okay, so now what is this item? So why does this item comes? Okay, so this item is nothing but the which is item is nothing but an object which is created by this data hyphen SLY hyphen list. So it is a mandatory, whatever the data that is having inside this hello, so all the data will be assigned to this item. Okay,
Excuse me,
so
sir.
yes,
Sir, zoom a little, sir.
excuse me.
Zoom.
Okay,
Zoom the window.
is it good?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
or else. Okay, so now here we are having an item. So for every iteration, what happens is, so for this hello array, for every iteration, one value will be taken and then that value will be printed inside this li iteration. So ul is the host element and li is the child element, and for this child element it will be repeated multiple times inside the loop. So then what does it mean by the repeat? Okay, so I'll copy the same statement and then I'll go inside and then I'll change from list to repeat. So both data hyphen sly hyphen list and data hyphen sly hyphen repeat both acts as the same. So both list and repeat are same. Both are used to iterate over arrays or collections. The syntax is also same as a lister. But the only difference in between the list and the so the only difference between the list and the repeat is, so this list will iterate the host element as well. So what does it mean by the host element? Okay, suppose if I click on this inspect and if you inspect the element, so in some cases what we need is we want to iterate the host element with the help of child element and host element. So both the outputs are almost the same. So if you observe here, so it is iterating the three elements, and this out in this repeat as well, it is iterating the three elements. So both the outputs are almost same, but the difference is the list. So when it comes to list, it will iterate only the child element. It will iterate only with the child element, and only the child element is repeated here. If I go there, so only the child element is repeated when it comes to list. Okay, so only child element is repeated when it comes to the list. So when it comes to the repeat, so if I go into this repeat, so if you observe here, repeat is iterating the host element as well. So only the child element in the list, but when it comes to repeat, every time it is repeating the host element as well. So if you in cases if you can so in cases if you want to iterate both the child element as well as the host element, so then we have to go for the repeat option. Or else if you want to iterate only the child element, so then we can go for data hyphen sly hyphen list. So that is only the major difference between the list and the repeat. So in the repeat, the child element with the help with the child element, host element will be repeated for each iteration. When it comes to list, only the child element is repeated for each and every iteration. So in this case here we are seeing item. So what is this item? So this item is nothing but a variable. Okay. So we can define a variable, and if you don't define any variable, so item becomes the default variable to store the data. Okay. So now in some case, if I want to create a new object as well. Okay. So if I want to create a new variable to store the data as well, so we can create. So now data hyphen sly hyphen list dot, I'll specify it as label. Okay, so data hyphen sly hyphen list dot label. So now if I try to refresh, so here whatever the data that is there inside this properties dot hello, so this entire data will be stored inside this label. Okay, so will be stored inside this label, and if I try to refresh, so inside the items we can't find any data now. It is repeating three times, but inside the items we can't find any data. Why? Because so the data is entirely storing inside this label only. So now if I want to iterate, so then we have to specify this label. So when we so what is this what will be happening here is, so when we assign the object, so inside this object only it is storing the data. Okay, so that will take the iteration to the object, and now whenever the iteration happen, so it will go into the label. Okay, so if you are not specifying this label object, so then what happens? So item is one default object which is created by the list or either repeat. So both will create this item as the default object, and for every iteration, the data will be stored inside this item object, and we are printing that data. Okay. So one or more default table will be generated. Okay. So basically this is a list format. So list or repeat is a list format. We can say that. So now if I go inside this label, suppose if I want to create for repeat as well, so I can create an object for the repeat as well. So both are same. So both works in the same way. So if you observe here, so both works in the same way. So now basically this label or item will be repeated in the form of an list format. Okay. So if you go for a list, so in the list we have a lot of options, right? In the collections list, we have a lot of options. Suppose if I want to use the first, if I want to print the first element, so then we'll be using multiple labels, right? So label dot first is one element we are having. So first is one member we are having. So whenever we are using label dot first, so at that time it will print only the first element. Suppose if I use here first label dot first, so label is nothing but the object. So inside this list, we have one method, we have one member called first. So this first member will iterate the data and then it will only iterate the first element. Okay, so it will not iterate all the elements. When I'm specifying label dot first, it will retrieve only the first element. Mm, so we are specifying variable name and then list. Okay, so we have to specify label list. So label list dot first. So we have to specify the variable name, and then with the help of the variable name at the last we have to add this one is nothing but a list. At the end we have to add. I'll try to refresh. True, false, false. Okay. Use a small I. Okay, so now it is returning a true, right? So when this particular value is returning true, so then how can we sort out? So we can go for an data hyphen sly hyphen test. So with the help of data hyphen sly hyphen test, I can check whether I can print the value. So data hyphen sly hyphen test is equals to, in the double quotes we can specify this value. So dollar curly braces, and then when label list dot first is there, so at the time I want to print this data. Okay, so at the time we will specify here dollar curly braces and label list dot first. Okay, so now it is printing true. It is getting only one element. So we have to get the label. Okay, so now it is printing only first element. Okay, so as it is returning a true or false value, so that's why I have taken inside the data hyphen sly hyphen list, and only it is printing the true value it is printing. The same thing we can also do with the help of repeat as well. So we can check whether the data is present or not, and then we can print the data. Because the data is storing inside the label, we have to call this label object. Suppose if we want to get the last element, so then we can go for this last. So when I specify here last, so it will print the last elements data. So now it will print HTL. Suppose if I want to get the middle element, so here we are having one more member called middle. So now it will print the middle data. So whenever if you want to generate the list based on the variable name, so at the variable name, so this is my variable name, right? So label is my variable name. So at the end of the variable name, so we have to attach one thing called as an list. So when I'm specifying list at the end of the variable name, so now it will get an list based data structure, and then we can see the elements which it is printing. So with the help of the middle member, we can print the middle option. Suppose if I want to print only the even elements, okay, so inside the array, if I want to retrieve only the even elements, so then label list dot even is one member we are having to retrieve only the even elements. Okay, so right now only two is the even element, right? So one and zero and one and three are the odd elements, and two is only one thing. Suppose if I mention here odd, so at the time it will print two. So first and third option it will print. So label list dot odd. So now it will print AEM and HTL it will print. Okay, so this is how we can just go with the help of So these are the different options we are having in order to get the data in the form of a list format. So first, which is used to return the first element, and then last is used to return the last element. And if you want to get the middle element of the list, so then middle is the option. Suppose if you want to get the only, if you want to iterate only the even elements, so then even is the option. And if you want to iterate only the odd elements, so then odd is the option we are having. Okay, so label list at the whatever the variable we are having, so at the variable, at the end of that variable, we have to add this button, which is nothing but an list we have to add. So in order to generate an list based data structure. So that is about data hyphen SLY hyphen list. The same thing will also apply whatever the methods I have used here. So try to do with the help of try to do with the repeat as well. So both works in the same way. So only difference is the data hyphen SLY hyphen repeat. So we'll repeat with the help of host element. So host element also will be iterated in the each iteration. So when you go for list, only the child element will be iterated. Okay, so that is about the list and that is about the repeat. So after that, here we are having one more data type, which is so one more attribute, sorry. So data hyphen SLY hyphen template. Okay, so data hyphen SLY hyphen template is nothing but it is also one HTL custom attribute. So simply we can say that it is equals to methods in Java. So we'll be creating methods, right? Public static void main is one method, or else if I want to create any custom methods as well, so how we'll create the custom method? At the end we'll be specifying the parenthesis public and then return type int and then any name AEM followed with a parenthesis. So that becomes a method. So same like if you want to create a method in Java, so same data hyphen SLY hyphen template is nothing but which is equals to a method in Java. So instead of writing why we write the methods? So in this case, so instead of writing the same logic multiple number of times, so simply what we can do, so we'll create that logic inside a method, and wherever I want to call that logic, so simply I'll call that method. So in the HTL also we're going for the same way. So if you want to create a method in the HTL, data hyphen SLY hyphen template is the one we can go for. So template is nothing but it is one of the reusable HTL block. So define once and then we can reuse them in multiple places. Okay, so now I'll create one custom HTL method. Okay, so how we can do that? So data hyphen SLY hyphen template. Okay, so data hyphen SLY hyphen template dot one object I'll create. Okay, so writer info is one object I am creating. So inside this writer info object, whatever the data I want to store, so whatever the data, we can define static as well as we can also specify the dynamic data as well. So first I'll specify the static data. So what will create inside, so what will be writing inside the methods, the logic will be writing, or I'll be defining some variables and I'll writing some data, right? So the same thing we'll do here. So I'll create one variable. So I'll create one logic here. So h3 and then so first name column and then backslash h3. So I'm defining a data here. So whatever the data I'm having, so I'm defining that data. So last name and then I'm specifying as my last name. Okay. So we'll also define one more thing and then okay, so I'm defining some data here. So this is the data we have created with the help of the method. So data hyphen SLY hyphen template is one thing we have created. So which is nothing but the method we have created. So how we'll be using the method? So inside this writer info is one method I have created. So this writer info, now if I go there and if I refresh the CN page, it would not be executed directly. So the writer info is nothing but the method name. So if I refresh, the writer info will not be executed automatically. Why? Because so now we have created a block. Okay, so now we have created a block which is nothing but a method. So now how to invoke this one or how to call this one? So in order to call your method, so first we have to invoke the method, right? So the same thing if you want to invoke your block inside the HTL, so at that time here we have to call this block. Okay, so how can I call that? So here we are having one more custom attribute, so which is nothing but data hyphen SLY hyphen call. So when you specify here data hyphen SLY hyphen call, so with the help of this data hyphen SLY hyphen call, you can call your template, which is nothing but your method. You can invoke your method. So simply you can call here. So div data hyphen, I want to use it here only. So simply you can call here. So div data hyphen SLY hyphen call is equals to, in the double quotes you can mention here dollar curly braces, and this is my method name, right? So writer info is my method name, so simply you can mention your writer info as the method name. So data hyphen SLY hyphen call, and then writer info is the method name, and you are calling the writer info method name, and then close the div, or else we'll go for a slide. So you'll understand the slide going forward. So I am using slide as well. So it has included all the data. So whatever the data that is there inside the method, so I can simply call it. Suppose if I want to invoke the method two times, okay, I want to invoke the method again. So simply you can just copy this one, and then you can invoke the method again. So it will include the method, it will invoke, or it will call your template two times. Okay, so right now we are passing some static data inside this method, right? So whatever the method we are having, so now by using call, I'll call the template which we have defined, and then you can see the same data because it is a static template. Okay, but if I want to pass the dynamic content, okay, so inside the template, if I want to pass the dynamic content, so how can I pass the dynamic content? So which is nothing but a parameters. Okay, so with the help of parameters, we can pass the dynamic data inside a method, right? So the same like if I want to, so same like if I want to pass the dynamic data inside a method inside this template, so how we can do that? Okay, so we can do that with the help of the parameters only, the same parameters. With the help of the parameters only we can do that. So here I'll define the parameters. So data hyphen SLY hyphen template dot writer info is equals to, and in the double quotes you will specify the parameters. Okay, so dollar curly braces, and you'll specify at the rate, so first name, and then what we are getting, so last name, and then we are getting email. So these are the three options we are getting. So first name, last name, and email. So now these are the three data I want to call. So simply these are the parameters we have specified. I can, and then you can just call these parameters here. So instead of your name, so dollar curly braces, first name you have to call. So this is the variable, this is the parameter, and this parameter we can pass here. Okay, so now we have passed it the data. So whatever the data that is coming, so we have just created the variables in order to send the dynamic data inside the method. So we have created the parameters. Okay, so once I have created the parameters, so we need to send these parameters, right? So while calling the method only, we'll be invoking these parameters. So data hyphen SLY hyphen call dollar curly braces writer info is one method I am calling. So inside this method, so while calling the method, we have to pass the parameters as well. Okay, so how to pass the parameters while invoking the method? So simply when you come here, so you have to specify like this. So at the rate, and then first I'm giving the first name, right? So first name you'll be specifying. So as it is an string, so you have to mention that string inside the double quotes, and then comma, and then you are specifying the last name. So in order to send the last name, so just use and space, no need to specify any commas here, and then last name is equals to, in the double quotes we will specify the last name, and then after that, so in order to specify email, you can just copy this email, and then you can send the email as a parameter as well. Okay, so this is the data I'm calling. So when I'm calling the method, I am passing the dynamic data inside the method with the help of the parameters. So simply you can again refresh this one and check what is the data that is coming. So the component is not included means, or that means there is an issue. So at the rate first name and then mismatched input expecting single quote. So just try to pass this data in the single quotes. Okay, so we have used double quotes outside, right? So just try to use single quotes and pass the data. Still no. Mismatched input. Okay. So at the rate first name, last name, and email as well. Oh, so we are calling the first name and then last name and then email as well. We are calling for yeah, in the double quote. Yeah. So now I'm getting the data. Suppose if I want to include one more time as well, you can just call with a different data as well. Okay. So you can call the template one more time as well. So with a different data. So just use an commas which were missing there, and then I'll remain the email as the same way. I'll remain the. So now it is returning. It is calling the method with a different data. So here not only just passing the static data as well. Suppose if you want to get the title here. So whatever the title is there, so that I want to become the title as the first name. So then you can specify like this. So properties dot. So what is the title we are having? In the dialog we are having one field, right? Heading is one field we are having. Suppose if I want to get that item as well, so we can get that field as well. So field label is title. So you can just call it as properties dot title. So now whatever the title that is there, so that title will be assigned to this variable, and then that will be assigned to this first name. So we can also call this data as well. So issue edit. So I'll see that and check. So dollar curly braces properties dot title.
So
So
quotes, single quotes.
no need of single quote. If you're passing a string, so then we have to specify single quotes. Right now it is not in string, like just go like this. Yeah, so now it is returning the data. So there is, you can directly mention properties dot title. So no need to inject. So you can just directly call properties dot title. It will send the value to that particular variable. So right now what we are doing is, so this is how, so just we are using in the, we are calling in the same dot HTML file. Suppose if I define this method inside marvel form dot HTML file. Okay. So now this marvel form dot HTML file, if I want to call in this, we are having Marvel form custom is one more HTML file we are having. I have defined this template in Marvel form. Okay, suppose if you want to call this Marvel form, Marvel form template inside Marvel form custom.html file. So how we can do that? So we can also do that while creating an object for this Marvel form.html file. Okay, you can just simply create an object, right? Suppose if you want to call the method in a different class, with the help of the object preference, we'll do that. So the same thing, we have to create an object for this marble form.html file, and then we can include the template, whatever the method we have created here. So we can call this method inside this marble form.custom with the help of data hyphen sl hyphen call. Okay, so try to create an object here. So how to create an object, by using which attribute we can create an object?
Include.
No, include is used to call one HTML file inside another HTML file. So here in this, I have already included the HTML file, but I want to create an object.
Use.
Yes, with the help of data hyphen sly hyphen use, we'll be creating an object for the HTML files or Java classes or anything. Okay, so with the help of this object, we can create. Okay, so I'll create an object here. Marvel form is the object I am creating. Okay, so for which file I have to create? So I have to create an object for this marble form.html file. So then in the in the double quotes, you have to mention that file name. So marvel form.html. So data hyphen sl hyphen use dot marvel form is equals to marvel form.html, and then now we can call that method slide data hyphen sl hyphen call. Okay, so data hyphen fly hyphen call is equals to, in the double quotes you have to call the data. So dollar curly braces, and then here we have to call that object. So article marvel form is the object we have created. So marvel form dot, what is the method name here? So method name is nothing but writer info is the method name. So marvel form dot writer info. So inside this writer info, as we are passing the dynamic data, so simply you can just copy this one. Now try to refresh and check. So inside the other page we have called, right? So now inside the marvel custom html file, so now it has included the template. So that is how we can call inside an other page as well. Just create an object for that html file. So with the help of the object, you can call the method inside another html file. So that is about data hyphen sly hyphen template, which is used to create the methods. And if you want to invoke the methods, and if you want to use the method, so then with the help of data hyphen sly hyphen call, we can do that. So after that, here we are having one more custom attribute, that is data hyphen sly hyphen element. Okay. So what does it mean by the element? Okay. So right now, if I go for any value, okay. So right now here h1. So suppose if I take any statement here, okay. So h1 is one statement, okay. So which is nothing but a host element. So this h1 is an HTML attribute, and which is nothing but a host element. So if you want to replace the host element, so with the specified type, so then with the help of h1, with the help of the data hyphen sly hyphen element, we can do that. So how we can specify? So in some cases only we'll be using this one. Okay. So in most of the cases, our HTML file, our component.html file will be containing code plus content. Okay. So code plus content. So in most of the cases, we will be injecting the content. So we'll be injecting the dynamic content with the help of the properties object. So the same thing if I want to get the dynamic code as well. So the code remains static in most of the cases. Okay. So in some cases, if I want to make this code as a static or so code as a dynamic. Okay. So how to replace this code? So this code is nothing but the host elements, right? So if you want to dynamically replace the host element during the runtime, so then with the help of data hyphen sly hyphen element, we can do that. Okay. So with the help of data hyphen sly hyphen element, so we can replace the host element. So then it will change, it will change the data. So what we'll be doing is, so here we'll be having a drop down. Okay. So inside the components .html file, so subscribe or we are having a drop down, right? So items and then country is one drop down we are having. So inside this drop down, so what we'll be specifying is we'll be specifying the options. So for the first option, I'll specify the name as h1 and then value will be h1. HTML element will be the h1. Okay. So now second, I'll specify option as h2. So the display text is h2 and then value will be h2. Okay. So now what I'll do is I'll replace the host element. Okay. So whatever the host element I'm having, so I'll replace the host element with the specified value. So then you can simply go with this one. So data hyphen sly hyphen use. So div data hyphen sly hyphen and then we are having one more attribute which is element. So element is equals to, so now whatever the data that I want to get. Okay. So whatever the data I want to get, whatever the data I want to replace, so that replaceable value will be specifying inside the element. So is equals to, and inside the double quotes will be specifying the value. So dollar curly braces, and inside this curly braces, how it is storing the data in the country, it will store the data, right? So simply call this value country. So properties, properties dot country. So the value will be storing inside the country. So that's why I've called the country, and then that data should be applied to the title. So properties dot title and then backslash div. Okay. So now this element what it will do is, so it will replace this host element. So now the div will be replaced by the value which is selected inside the drop down. Okay. So now it will render the value as whatever the thing we have specified. So it will render the value. So properties dot title means it will render the title. Directly call inside this one so that you'll have an clarity if it is including or not. Okay, so right now what it is printing such software solutions it is printing. Suppose if I inspect this one and if I check what is the host element of this one is, the host element is div. The current host element is div. Suppose if I go there and if I try to order the value now inside the drop down, so inside the accessibility, not the buttons, inside the Marvel form and the advanced tab, we are having one drop down. So now I'll select the value as h2 and if I click on OK, so now the value has been changed. Okay, so how we are replacing the host element. Now if I try to check now, so now the host element will be replaced with the value we have specified. So preview and then the item will be h2. If you observe here, the host element is h2. So if you want to dynamically replace the host element, so then with the help of data hyphen sly hyphen element, we can do that. So which is used to replace the host element. Suppose if I want to, so that is about the data hyphen sly hyphen element. So which is dynamically replaces the host element. So if you want to dynamically replace the host element, so then with the help of data hyphen sly hyphen element, we can do that. Okay. So after that, we are having one more. Is anyone- okay. So after that, here we are having one more custom attribute, which is nothing but data hyphen sly hyphen text. Sly hyphen text. So what does this text will do is, so this text will replace the content of the host element with the specified text. So right now, if I go there, so data hyphen sly hyphen text. Okay. So basically, when I specify this data hyphen sly hyphen text, and if I try to bring the title, okay, in order to get the title, we'll specify dollar curly braces. I'll specify here properties dot title. Okay. So data hyphen sly hyphen text is equals to dollar curly braces properties dot title, and then I'll specify one default text, and then backslash div. I'll show you the difference. So right now what it is doing is it is printing the text. Okay. So now whatever the value which we have specified inside the container, so that value it is specifying. So but if you observe here, so it is specifying the same value. Okay. So when we will be using this data hyphen text data hyphen text is, so basically if you want to escape the HTL attribute, okay, so then with the help of data hyphen sly hyphen text we can do that. So it will replace the content. Okay. So the content will be replaced by the host element. So if you don't want to get this one, suppose we are having one more attribute which is nothing but data hyphen sly hyphen attribute. Okay. Basically if I want to add any custom attributes, so in that case we'll be going with data hyphen sly hyphen attribute. So this is also one custom HTL tag we are having. Okay. So attribute is nothing but, so this is something, right? So now if I go inside this one, so data hyphen sly hyphen text is one attribute. Okay. So same like if I'm specifying any custom attribute, and if I want to whatever the title that is there inside this custom attribute, if I want to replace, so then with the help of data hyphen sly hyphen attribute we can do that. Okay. So I'll show you an example. So div title is one attribute I am specifying. Okay. So div title is equals to example, and then I want to replace the value which is inside that one. Okay. So data hyphen sly hyphen attribute. Okay. So data hyphen sly hyphen attribute, and then here we have to specify the title. Okay. So whatever the title that is there. So if you want to get the title, so then you have to mention like is equals to in the double quotes dollar curly braces and properties dot title. Okay. So that title, whatever the title we are having, so that title will be replaced inside this example. Okay. So replaced in the title attribute. So just try to save the changes, and then yeah, we have written. So title is the one we have written inside text element. If title is equals to example is the title they are given. So example is the title, and then data hyphen sly hyphen attribute. So data hyphen sly hyphen attribute is equals to, so whatever the attribute that is there, so I want to get that attribute inside this title. Properties dot, so instead of title I'll give another name. Okay, I'll specify link. Instead of title I'll specify this one link, because properties dot title, and here the title is so different. Sorry, backslash div. In very rare cases we'll be using this one. Actually now what happens here is, so now if I go inside the this click button and if I try to inspect, so okay, so right now it says example. Okay, but it should say that whatever the title that is ordered inside this properties dot title, so it should call that value actually. So in order to call that, so data hyphen sly hyphen attribute dot title. Okay, so when I specify here attribute dot title, so we are calling that attribute, and whenever the title is ordered, so then it will display that particular title. So now try to refresh and see. Title is one attribute which it has added. So if you want to go, if you want to get the attributes in the dynamic way, so then with the help of then with the help of data hyphen sly hyphen attribute we can do that. So it will call the attributes in the dynamic way. Okay, so title is one attribute we have added to the one. Okay, so after that here we are having which is called as a data hyphen sly hyphen unwrap. Okay, so this is also one custom attribute, data hyphen sly hyphen unwrap. Okay, so this data hyphen sly hyphen unwrap is used to remove the host element. Okay, removes the host element. So if you want to remove the host element, so then with the help of data hyphen sly hyphen unwrap we can do that. So instead of going for this data hyphen sly hyphen unwrap, so simply what we can do is we can go for the sly attribute. So sly is one custom attribute where it will not include the host element, the same thing which we are doing from the start onwards. Okay, so in that case when you are going for this sly attribute, so it will not include the, so when you are going for this sly attribute, so it will not include the host element. So what, whenever the case I have gone for the sly attribute, so if you observe the sly, in the sly attribute, the host elements will be not included. Okay, so data hyphen sly hyphen include, or else in the resource. So we'll go for this one only attribute. So instead of specifying div, I'll specify sly. So if you observe here, the host element has been removed. So if you want to remove the host element, so then with the help of data hyphen SLY hyphen sly attribute, we can unwrap, or else we can just go for the sly attribute. So both works in the same way. So now we are specifying sly, right? So instead of sly, I'll specify like this. So div, then div, and then we have to specify data hyphen SLY hyphen unwrap. So instead of specifying, we can go for the sly attribute. Okay, so now the host element is removed. So the same things, the sly and data hyphen SLY hyphen unwrap works in the same way. So after that, here we are having the last custom attribute, which is nothing but data hyphen SLY hyphen set. Okay, so data hyphen SLY hyphen set is one custom attribute. Okay, so what does this set will do is, so it is set is nothing but a variable in Java. Okay, so if I want to define a variable, so the inside the HTL, so then with the help of data hyphen SLY hyphen set, we can do that. So set is used to define a variable, and then we can assign the value to the set as well. Okay, so right now I'll just assign one value to the variable. Okay, so diff sly will go. So sly data hyphen SLY hyphen set. Okay, so set is set dot example. Okay, so example is one variable I am creating. Okay, so inside this example variable, I want to call the data, which is nothing but the drop down data we are having, right? So I want to call the drop down data. So simply you can call properties dot country. Okay, so properties dot country we can call. So it contains one HTML data, HTML data it contains. Okay, so sly is not an ending tag, so there is no need to specify the ending tag for this sly. So now whatever the data that is stored inside this example variable, so it can call that data anywhere. Okay, suppose if in the down paragraph tag I'll call. So paragraph, instead of calling dollar curly braces, the values instead of calling properties dot country, the value is already storing inside this variable, right? Simply you can inject this variable. So example, I can specify the example here. So not only a number data, so you can call any type of data. So we can create a variable, whatever the data I want to be stored inside this variable. So simply you can store inside that variable. Okay, so the same thing we are printing. So how it is printing? So that first the data so we are reading the data from the content node from the properties dot country, and then that data we are storing inside this example variable which we have created. So this example variable we have called here, so that's why it is printing the data. So these are the different 13 different custom attributes which are available in HTL. So first one is data hyphen SLY hyphen test, which is like an if condition in Java. And then if I want to create any objects for the HTML files, JS files, or the CSS files, then with the help of data hyphen SLY hyphen use, we can create the object. So list and repeat if you want to iterate. Okay, so if you want to iterate, which acts like a for loop, so then with the help of data hyphen SLY hyphen list and data hyphen SLY hyphen repeat, we can do that. Okay, so text is nothing but which is used to display the specified text instead of the parameter. And then unwrap is used to remove the host element, and template is nothing but which is like a method in Java. So if you want to call the method, so if you want to invoke that method with the help of data hyphen SLY hyphen call, we can do that. And then with the help of the set, so which is like a variable. So if you want to create the variables in HTL, so then with the help of data hyphen SLY hyphen set values, we can create a variable. Okay, so and then we have seen include an resource, which is used to include one component, one HTML file and another. And if you want to include one component in another component, so then with the help of data hyphen SLY hyphen resource, we can do that. Okay, and then so these are the different HTML HTL custom attributes which are available.